What's up, everyone? My name is Keon, and I'm a trainer at Shreds Gym in Ladera Ranch, California. And today I want to go over proper hinging mechanics with you. This is particularly important if you deal with lower back pain, especially when you bend over or when you pick things up off the ground. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to demonstrate a proper hinge for you. Gonna um, go over kind of the differences between a hinge and a squat, and then also give you an easy way to practice your hinging mechanics before you start adding in weight and doing things like a deadlift or a Romanian deadlift. So if you've watched any of my videos before, especially the workout videos, I often include some sort of deadlift in the circuits that I demonstrate. And in those videos, I show you how to do a hinge, but I don't really go into or I show you how to do a deadlift using a hinging mechanic, but I don't really go into a whole lot of detail on it. So I thought I'd make a video demonstrating that for you because it's such an important concept and movement pattern to understand and be able to do. So with that said, let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm going to pick up a pair of dumbbells and show you how to hinge via a deadlift. Okay, so let me move this out of the way. Okay, so I have a pair of dumbbells here. This is gonna be um, true whether you're using dumbbells, kettlebells, a barbell, any type of weight, really. Okay, um, the mechanics really are all the same. So, but before I actually get into the weights, I'm gonna just show you a hinge, okay? So here, all a hinge is, my butt starts here, and I just push my hips back. You see that? See how my butt started around here, and now it ended up back here. So I'll show you again. So butt starts here, in line with the rest of my body, and as I hinge, I push my hips back, okay? So, um, what this is going to look like in terms of a deadlift is when you get your weights, you're going to slowly lower the weights, but you're going to do so by pushing your hips back. So as you push your hips back, the weights go down naturally. So it's not you don't think of it as you're lowering the weights and you pushing your hips back, okay? Because if you do that, you might end up just squatting it a little bit or bending over like that. Okay, that's not what we want when we're hinging, and especially not when we're deadlifting. Okay, so I'm gonna go over how to properly hinge, especially with regards to a deadlift. Okay, so you're gonna have your weights in your hands. The first thing I like to do is brace. Okay, so by bracing, I mean bracing my core. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a big breath into my stomach. Okay, so take a big breath into my stomach, and then I kind of pull my body down. So I'm starting here, I'm all loose. Okay, my back is kind of rounding. I take a big breath into my belly and I kind of brace down. You see that motion right here? Big breath in and brace down. Okay. Once I'm here, um, I'm going to engage my lats. You can do this a couple ways. You can pretend that you have a piece of paper or a pencil in your armpit and you're trying to keep it from falling. So you squeeze your armpits together. And if that doesn't work for you to engage your lats, you can think about having like really long arms, or in other words, trying to depress your shoulder blades, bring them down. So you're going to try and bring your arms down, your shoulders down, engage your lats, squeeze your arm into your armpit. Now your lats are engaged. You have a big belly full of air because you just took in a big breath. Okay, and now all you're doing is you're pushing your hips back and maintaining this weight over the middle of your foot. Okay, and then you're squeezing your glutes and coming back up. Now, when you do that, you're going to feel all the tension really in your hamstrings and your glutes if you're doing it properly. So, again, I'll show it to you here. Push your hips back and see how my back is nice and straight. Okay, now I'm engaging my glutes and coming back up. So first, for starters, for bracing, a mistake people make is that they take shallow breaths. So if you take shallow breaths, okay, your chest goes up and down. You notice that? If you take a big, deep breath, your stomach expands, okay? So that's kind of what we want when we're bracing. We want to get that stomach expanding, okay? Get that air and brace down, okay? And then another mistake people make is that they squat the deadlift, or they kind of squat the movement instead of hinging it, okay? So what a squat is if you have the weights here, this is a squat, okay? You see how I'm kind of flexing at my knee joint, okay? The knee joint itself is going into flexion. Versus a hinge, I'm sitting my hips back. Okay, notice the difference? Here's a hinge again, okay? And here is a squat. Now in the squat, you still have an element of pushing your hips back, but it's not as emphasized as during a deadlift. And then you also have that component of knee flexion. Okay, so even though you do maintain a slight bend in the knee during the hinge I was showing you, which is a Romanian deadlift, it's not as great as the knee bend in or during a squat. So once again, I'm going to show you the difference between a hinge. So again, brace everything, okay, and you push your hips back, okay, versus a squat. Here, your hips still go back a little bit, but then you go into some knee flexion, okay? So going into some knee flexion. All right, so there's the difference between a hinge or a Romanian deadlift particularly, and a squat, okay? So how do you go about doing that? Um, one thing I noticed, particularly in physical therapy clinics and then with clients that I work with, is that even when I tell them to push their hips back as they do the movement, they still can't really get it right. They either still squat it, or they round their backs, or whatever the case may be. So an easy thing to do is grab a stick, could be a mop, could be a wooden dowel, could be PVC piping lying around your house. Grab something that's long enough to reach from your head to your butt, okay? Reach from the back of your head to your butt, okay? And what you're gonna do is you're gonna bring it around back, okay? You're gonna bring it around back, all right? Then you're gonna run it along run it up along your back, okay? So I want it to touch your head, I want it to touch your head, your mid back, and I want it to touch your butt as well. So kind of like this. I know it's a little bit hard to see. Maybe if I switched hands, it might be easier if I could find this, okay? All right, so again, still kind of tough to see, but it's touching my back, it's touching my head, and it's touching my butt. I'm going to switch back over just because this is more comfortable for me, okay? And all I want you to do is, again, get that belly full of air, brace. So belly full of air and brace, maintaining contact at those 3 points with the stick, whatever stick you're using. And all you're going to do is you're going to push your hips back and maintain contact with the stick at all 3 points, okay? So again, you're going to sit your hips back, maintaining contact with the stick. Now this is going to be a little bit easier if you have a longer stick, but if you don't, it still works. Again, you're going to push your hips back and maintain contact with the stick. Okay? And eventually, once you get good at that, you can drop that and you'll be able to do a proper hinge without the stick there. Okay? So, like I said, common mistakes people make when they're hinging, okay? They begin the hinge and then they squat. That's not a hinge, that is a squat, okay? So you can think of a squat like you're sitting into a chair versus something like a deadlift, which is a hinge. You can think of like the hinge on a door. how that moves, or you can think of even a book, how a book opens is kind of similar to a hinging pattern, okay? Like the binding of a book, okay, is similar to hinging mechanics. And then another problem people, or mistake that people commonly do, is they round their backs like this, okay? So we want to remedy that by maintaining a nice strong core. Remember, get that belly full of air, brace, and then engaging our lats, okay? So by depressing our shoulder blades, see, my shoulders start up here, I depress them, squeezing my armpits together, and as I hinge, I maintain a neutral spine, okay? And then squeeze my glutes on the way up. So again, um, you can use this simple stick trick, maintaining contact with the 3 points of your body. So maintaining with the head, the mid back, and on your butt, okay? So, and then you hinge back and maintain the contact with the stick at all 3 points, okay? And you sit your hips back, you push them back until pretty much you feel, or I shouldn't say until you feel tension, but until you can't really push them back anymore. So let me put this back here. Okay, you have it here. You're going to push your hips back until you can't really push them anymore. Okay, so my hips are starting here, right along above my feet. And as I push back, my butt ends up like a few inches behind, okay? And then when you do that, you're gonna feel it in your hamstrings, you're gonna feel it in your glutes, you're gonna use your glutes to get you back up there. So if you are relatively new to hinging and deadlifting and you can't quite get this pattern down, I definitely recommend getting a stick that you can use to emulate what I just did or what I just showed you, and do it um, 2 to 3 times a day. Do 10 reps of it. Really get comfortable with that hinging motion, hinging mechanic. And then if you feel comfortable enough that you have it all down, you're able to maintain that neutral spine, you can brace properly your core and your lats, you can sit your hips back, start adding some weight in and do deadlifts, okay? Do Romanian deadlifts particularly. It changes, hinging motion changes a little bit if you're doing different types of deadlifts, but um, for now, I want you to just focus on that. And this is going to be very beneficial for you, not only for strengthening your lower back. Doing Romanian deadlifts is a great way to strengthen your lower back, but more so, it strengthens your entire posterior chain. It's going to strengthen your lower back. It's going to strengthen your glutes. It's going to strengthen your hamstrings, and it's going to even strengthen your trap muscles. Okay, all of which is good for maintaining proper posture, all of which is good for mitigating lower back pain, especially strengthening of the glutes, hamstrings, and lower back. And then more so, it's just going to aid you in your everyday activities. And one particular area that I've been thinking that you can use this, and I personally use it myself, is when you're working in around the sink. Maybe you're washing your face. Instead of bending over to wash your face, you can go to the sink and hinge your hips back, and you wash your face just like that. Okay, so this is a movement that you should be proficient at, because you encounter it a lot in your everyday life, even though you might not notice it because you're not doing it. You know, picking things off the ground is literally a deadlift. You're hinging when you do that, or at least you should be, if you want to avoid lower back pain. You know, stuff like that, stuff like washing your face, bending over to wash your face and get that water, that should be a hinge, yet most people probably just go to the sink and round their back and go like that. That's not right. Eventually, you can encounter lower back pain if you're doing that. So, and these are just a few examples of where hinging comes into play. Um, like I said, picking things up. If you're maybe picking things out from a cupboard on a lower cupboard, a lower drawer, and you need to bend over, really any type of bending over um, and picking things up is going to be a hinge. Obviously, it's going to change a little bit, especially if you're trying to pick up something off the ground that's really low to the ground. You're going to have to bend over a little bit more and your form might get compromised in that sense. Um, but for the most part, a lot of the bending over we do in our day-to-day lives is a hinge, and you should practice that movement like I've showed you today, so you can get proficient at it. Okay, so I hope that helps. I hope you guys you try it. Okay, see if you can pick up that movement pattern down, because like I said, it's so crucial. I can't emphasize it enough. It's really important, guys. Okay, so I hope that helps, and try it out and see what happens. Thanks.